Thank you, everybody. Welcome to part two of our introduction to our new emergency task force to change the world and do nothing less but change the world. Today, we want to talk about, there was some confusion. People are saying, we're going to hear miracle stories about how the Zohar makes miracles. No, we'll hear miracle stories, but we're going to explore today, what's the mechanism underlying the miracles that the Zohar generates? What's happening? So about, I don't know, back in 2022, 2021, whatever, I was walking in La Cienega Park here in Los Angeles with the Rav, and he, in a nutshell, told me, what really is happening on both a scientific and metaphysical level, how we generate miracles. So I thought, no one's really ever talked about this before. We know we get miracles, we live them, we experience them, but I think by understanding what is really taking place will intensify our conviction, increase and solidify our certainty in the power of the Zohars and our own transformation to generate light that will create miracles. So let's begin. I want to go through this very quickly. Do not try to absorb everything in 1 second. If you get some questions or it's a little bit overwhelming, because you're going to have a replay of this entire event, so you can watch it slowly if you need more information. Or of course, you can just email questions to our website. Okay, can you see that? Everybody can see the screen? Give me a thumbs up. I can see you guys. Okay, here we go. So in the beginning, before the universe was created, where do we all come from? We were in a world of infinite paradise. Except we were only 99% happy with this paradise. Why? Because there was actually something better than receiving paradise. What could possibly be better than being handed paradise? Infinite paradise? It's being the creator and cause of the very paradise we're experiencing. We wanted to help create the paradise we were, living, experiencing, enjoying, bathing in that infinite light and joy, instead of just having it as a free lunch. Enter the concept of time and space. Because when we were in this paradise before the creation of the cosmos, there was no such thing as time and space. Everything was one. We probably cannot grasp that while we're in these physical bodies, but there was no time and space. So what happened was the creation of time and space. What does that mean? Paradise was literally shattered, carved into a picture puzzle, if you will. And then that time and space was injected into the puzzle to take paradise apart. Welcome to our world. Time and space were created so that we, through our effort, can rebuild the puzzle of paradise. That's it. This game to rebuild paradise has a time limit, and that time limit is 6,000 years. So we have 6,000 years to rebuild the puzzle of creation, putting it back together again, putting together those pieces that help create paradise. Now, there are two ways to the end game, two ways to assemble this puzzle. Pain and suffering actually connects pieces together of the puzzle, which is a stupid way to get there. Or we can transform internally. When we transform and rise above that opponent within us, that negative consciousness, we also put two pieces of the puzzle together again. Here's the problem: the human ego. First, what's the true definition of ego? People get always confused. Your ego. What does that mean? Ego can mean, I can do nothing wrong. Arrogance. Ego can mean, I can never do anything right. High self-esteem, low self-esteem. Ego lives at both ends of the spectrum. It means our reactive nature, where something outside of us is controlling us. It's the negative thoughts in our mind. All wars, corruption, evil in our world stem from the ego, our inner opponent. Clearly, for the last 5,800 plus years, the ego has been winning. And each time that ego wins, each time we react, each time we listen to the ego and respond to its, to its urges and triggers, more chaos, more time and space are created. It becomes more difficult to put the puzzle together again, and there's chaos and darkness within that space between the puzzle pieces. And now we need that extra time and space to fix everything we broke. Question is, what's causing the space? Bottom line, as we just said, it's our reactive behavior. Someone else controls my emotions and triggers my own behavior. The puzzle, believe it or not, should have been reassembled already. We should already be in paradise. Moses, Jesus, they all gave us an opportunity how to put the puzzle back together again. But we blew it. And now there is so much space because we failed, because the ego has dominated us. There's so much space and darkness. The suffering we're going through, we have been going through, has been tremendous. We're rebuilding the puzzle through pain, through bloodshed, through tears, through emotional turmoil. When we triumph over our ego in those moments where we do get the strength, we generate what's called light. A miracle over our egocentric nature generates an equal amount of light that overcomes the laws of Mother Nature. They're both tied together. So if we make a miraculous transformation of character in a situation, we don't lose our temper, we don't blow up, we really take summon all of our willpower to truly let go, not suppress, let go, we generate an equal amount of light miracle in Mother Nature. But again, many of us learn that. What's actually happening when we create that miracle? What's the mechanism? What's going on? What does light do? The Zohar happens to generate the greatest infusion of light on earth. Other classes, other talks explain how, why, not important now. Just we know the Zohar generates the greatest amount of light. But how, for example, did the Zohar lower radiation levels in the Chernobyl exclusion zone? Just a quick recap. This is the once liquefied core of the Chernobyl reactor. Okay, so years ago, Kabbalist Rav Berg placed Zohars all around the Chernobyl exclusion zone. We won't go into the details of what actually took place. What we will tell you is that this report from the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences demonstrated to their mouths literally fell to the floor, we decreased cesium-137 by 22%, strontium-90 by 32%. There was no explanation how it could happen. So what's really happening with the Zohar? During World War II, the Zohar saved all the North African Jews in Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. Okay, they were saved, miracle. But what's really happening with the Zohar? What is it doing? The answer is found in light itself. Particles of light are called photons. So when you hear the word photon, we just mean a little particle of light. From the perspective of a photon, there is no such thing as time. It might exist for hundreds of trillions of years, that photon, but for the photon, there's zero time elapsed between when it's emitted, the light goes out, and when it's absorbed again. So if a photon of light comes out from the sun, and if it travels, a billion years before someone sees it and it goes in their eye, it took billions of years to get there. But from the perspective of the photon, there's no time. It was there instantly. It's bizarre, right? From the viewpoint of a photon, there is no such thing as time. and it doesn't experience distance either. What does that mean? What are we saying? Bottom line, Einstein called it, and Einstein's the one who figured this out, time dilation. This is not theory. This is fact proven over and over again. Light makes time slow down. When you're at the speed of light, time stops completely. As you approach the speed of light, it begins to change. So it's relative to our movement. Length contraction means space, the whole cosmos, begins to shrink as you approach the speed of light. But when you reach the speed of light, space shrinks to zero. And time and space are two halves of one coin. That's why it's known, don't freak out if you don't know the term, that space-time continuum. Google it later. Just know time and space are connected, and time stops and space shrinks to zero. Light eliminates time and space, which means there was no waiting thousands of years for the radiation to decay. When the light was there, it removed the process by removing an amount of time from the process. Light reduces time and space. Light reduces the process. Enough light, theoretically, eliminates the process entirely, because if we can tap the full, as the Rav called it, the full complement of the light, there's no time and space. We're back in paradise. We're only in time and space to reassemble the puzzle. So interesting, what happened in Chernobyl? They couldn't figure it out. The Chernobyl zone is actually a very beautiful place with thriving wildlife communities. They don't know what we did. The University of Georgia didn't know what we did with our Zohars. Only the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences knew, because they set it up for us. But they did independent studies, and they're wondering, where's this wildlife coming from? National Geographic. Camera traps captured images of a bison, 21 boars, 9 badgers, 26 gray wolves, 16 raccoon dogs, and 10 red foxes. It's just incredible. You can't go anywhere without seeing wolves. Even in the busy area between the main guard post and the remains of the Chernobyl power plant, signs of wildlife were everywhere. Just a small example. So from light's perspective, not from ours, from the photon's perspective, there is no 6,000 years for this game of life. There is no 15 billion years for the universe, it's insane, and it's hard to wrap your head around it. So if you can't wrap your head around it, you're not alone. Just know, from light's perspective, light removes space-time, which means if you put enough of that spiritual light into the universe, we remove all the space between the puzzle pieces, we remove the time that we're supposed to use to put it back together, and we draw the energy of the original paradise each time we inject light, because there's no more time, there's no space, there's no puzzle. Here's the $1 million question. Why is a photon of light, why is it above time and space? Why does that happen? Why does light make time and space disappear? Because a photon has no mass. Electrons have mass, protons have mass, neutrons have mass, and because they have mass, they cannot achieve the speed of light. That's why it's called the speed of light. Light has no mass, light speed. Now, all other particles have some, measure of mass, so they can't reach the speed of light. But here comes the biggest secret of the Zohar. This is critical. The mass in a particle manifests as the mass in our consciousness, which is the ego. We don't have light speed in our consciousness, meaning the ability to rise above time and space, because we have ego. The ego is creating friction. The ego is slowing us down, like mass slows down an electron. Ego slows down our ability to use our mass-free consciousness to create our reality. So that's the relationship When the ego no longer controls us and we control it instead, we will become massless in our consciousness, massless beings, and thus time and space will vanquish. Paradise will be here. The ego is what creates time. It delays the redemption. Light diminishes time, and it accelerates redemption by removing time and space. The space-time that's caused by ego can be diminished by pain, or it can be reduced by light. So if there's time and space, the only way to remove the ego so we can move to becoming massless human beings, meaning egoless human beings, meaning beings of light in our consciousness, where the ego, our drive, serves others, not just ourselves. That time space that's created by the ego, only pain can diminish the ego, and thus we suffer. Or we can generate light proactively, and that will remove the space within us and diminish the power of the ego so that we control it instead of the ego controlling us. Light connects us to the original paradise instead of us being connected to the broken puzzle. So how do we generate light? One, we know rising above the human ego generates light. We rise a little bit, we get a little light. We rise a lot, we get a lot of light. We don't rise above it, we get pain. And that also diminishes the ego. Two, connection to the Zohar. Sharing the Zohar, spreading the Zohar, studying the Zohar. Three, actions of sharing. Not sharing to get my name up on a building, painful sharing, painful acts of sharing that are transformative, that hurt the ego. So those are three ways we connect to light. The Shabbat, the holidays, etc., draw down certain aspects of light to speed up the process. Shabbat every single week keeps us on the timeline. We want to get off that timeline of 6,000 years and bring the redemption now. The Zohar's light diminishes the ego, which creates space between people. What's the worst space that comes into this world? If I'm jealous of somebody, I just made space between us. If I'm giving them an evil eye, I just created space between us. Evil is born in the space that we create. That's what's separating the puzzle pieces. When we transform our ego, we remove the space. When we look for the good in others, we remove space. When we judge others, we create space. The Zohar's presence removes the space between people. Just holding the book, having the book, its mere presence transforms consciousness and removes space between people. This is why the Muslims of Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, this is why they protected the Sephardic Jews where the Zohar was. The light of Zohar filled their souls, no longer creating hatred, dislike, conflict. It creates oneness because there's no space and time between us. The light eradicated the evil that was in the space that was causing World War II in the first place. So that's the mechanism. You remove space between people. You remove the process of having to suffer to transform. The light removes the space for you. Suffering or transformation. The most powerful way to remove space on earth, to bring the redemption now, is the light of the Zohar, period. Other classes explain why it's the Zohar. The global dissemination of the Zohar to Christians and Muslims is how we will remove the space between all religions, between all peoples, and remove all the evil and darkness that lives in that space that's creating all the chaos. That's the whole purpose of what we're doing. According to Jews and Christians, Elijah the prophet appears just before the redemption in Messiah. Just one quick quote. This is the students of Jesus asking him a question. Why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come? Jesus answered, Elijah does come, and he will restore all things. So the Elijah does come to bring light, to restore, to bring order before the Messiah arrives. So why are we doing this project with the first ever Zohar printed? The revelation of Zohar to all nations, any religion, is the revelation of Elijah, Kabbalist Rav Yehuda Ashlag. The revelation of Zohar to all nations, regardless of religion, is a precondition for the complete redemption. We need to remove the space between nations. The Zohar removes space because light, time dilation removes time, length contraction removes space. Light causes space to shrink. There'll be no more space between the nations through the power of the spiritual light, the same way physical light in our world shrinks space to zero. The distribution of the wisdom among the multitude, the Gentile nations, is called shofar or trumpet. And just as the sound of the ram's horn, the shofar, covers a great distance, the echo of this wisdom will spread throughout the world until all nations hear the divine wisdom. This project is all about finishing the work of Jesus, Rabbi Shimon, Elijah, Moses, Rabbi Ashlag, and most important for me, who did the most insane work of all, finishing the mission of the Rav, Kabbalist Rav Berg, and Karen, who made the Zohar available to the world for the first time in history. And with the first Zohar ever printed, we're going to create a special edition to send to all the nations, a Messiah edition, where we put all the chapters, all the verses, all the secrets of the Messiah, resurrection of the dead, peace, into this one Zohar to bring that light to all the nations. Just so you know, Rav Ashlag, Rabbi Isaac Luria in the 16th century, and his student and disciple and successor, Chaim Vital, they all learned from this first ever printed Zohar. So in conclusion, they were all the seed of spreading this light. This first ever printed Zohar therefore taps us into the seed of the seed. That's why we're focusing on the first ever printed Zohar. It's the seed of the seed, because Rabbi Ashlag was the seed, Rabbi Isaac Luria was the seed. This is the power. So we need your contributions to generate the light that removes the process, that will diminish time and space, the space that's separating us from the redemption, the time delaying the arrival of paradise. Your contributions alone accelerate the redemption. Then the dissemination of the Zohar accelerates the redemption. It's all a process. And the reason Jesus, Moses, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Ashlag, the Ari, all the greatest Kabbalists in history failed, because the people weren't involved. The people have to put, because we are the pieces of the puzzle. We've got to contribute our time and effort to rebuild that puzzle. Before we take any questions to me, I just want to introduce Yehuda Berg to share a few words, and then we'll come back to me and I'll take some questions.
Hey everyone, as Billy was sharing about what we wanted to accomplish today, we wanted to explore the world of miracles. Because you look at the news, you put on anything, your phone, social media, situation looks impossible. Not just Israel, Palestinians, Iran, Lebanon. Like as you explore and as you widen, and on the side, Russia, China, all this situation almost seems like impossible. I have dear friends in all the entire Middle East, dear friends, situation has become practically impossible. Impossible to navigate, impossible in the consciousness. We see things that are unimaginable. We see continued just continued chaos. And I ask myself more than anything, what can I do? And then I'm bits and pieces here reminded by things I learned from my father, things I learned from my mom, things I learned from different places, that you have to connect to a reality that we don't see. And that reality that we don't see is the world of miracles. We have been, each and every one of us has been in places in our life, has been in situations in our life where we said, how am I getting out of this place? How am I getting out of this square? How am I getting out of this situation? How, remember when I was a little kid and little kid, little problems, big kids, big problems, right? So when I was a little kid and I grew up, every time there was a situation, and there were many situations, but I would always be like, I know by the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, somehow things will be okay. As a little kid, you don't know that something, or that somehow you know the key. For me, I saw a universe where that where that situation didn't exist. And now, in the world today, we do have a prescribed way. Now, embedded in the creation of the world, as it is, was also embedded. You would almost look like, life hacks. Life was given to us, and hacks were given to us. And occasionally we're allowed to take not just column A, which is chaos and everything, but also column B. Prayer. If we pray, we could remove some of that time and space just by prayer. I wake up in the morning and I pray. I go to sleep at night, and before then I pray. We pray, whether we pray religiously and we say the Lord's Prayer, or we say Kabbalistic prescribed the Shema at night, or any other prayer that a person wants to make, or prayer. Here's the muezzin and decides it's time to pray, either physically in the mosque or just wherever the person is. Whatever that call to prayer or that feeling to pray, we've just removed some time and space. That's how prayer works. Prayer works just in the same mechanism that Billy talked about miracles. Prayer works the same. You've just removed some time and space. You removed some time and space. You removed some pain and suffering. You removed what's separating from me and light. Miracles are when we actually enter into that universe. There's the universe that we're actually in right now, and those of us who have learned a little quantum mechanics or some high level physics, we know that there are parallel universes operating at the same time. There's a parallel universe where the situation is different than the way our life is today. My singular life, my life that includes my nuclear surrounding, nuclear family, nuclear surrounding, my house, my environment, my friends, family, and as we branch out, all that is one universe. How do I jump from universe to another? The jump is required, is a miracle. How do I make the jump? What's my mechanism to get there? It could be as simple as doing a act of goodness, a favor. The bigger the miracle, unfortunately, sometimes the bigger the ask of us. Need to do more, need to help more, and need to give of ourselves. And it's sometimes a random stranger, and it's sometimes our best friend, our child, our parent. It could be something as someone right next to us, as something far away. But we have to believe that miracles are a possibility, that world of miracles can actually happen. I don't know a situation that solves all the problems. I look at and I try to not look at the news. I try to not look at my phone, social media, all that that is affecting us. But there is a way. And whether that way is going to be days, weeks, or months, there will be a way where there will be a change, a dramatic change in the situation. And one way also to be able to jump worlds is the power of the Zohar. And that's why we're doing this project. And I'm physically want to go to many places and to give to many people who are influential, many people who are influential in their country, in their surroundings, and just even in their family. We want to go person to person, whether the Zohar will be available in hand or through downloads. Or we'll get to our big plan soon. We're formalizing this right now. Me and Billy are formalizing our plan, but at least we know what we're trying to get to. We're trying to start with us and our surrounding, and hopefully eventually the universe, to all not live in this reality, but live in an alternative reality in the world of miracles, where all the problems are solved, where things just look the way they are, completely different, in a completely different universe. So thank you so much for joining. We'll have more of these sessions coming up. Follow us on the social webs. Follow us at the website. Sign up. We'll have more and more of these and more opportunities to be able to share more and more understandings and wisdom and consciousness to be able to get to that goal. So thank you guys so much for joining. Billy will take questions, and I will hopefully connect to all you guys very, very soon. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you, Udaberg. Okay, so we have a few minutes for some questions and anything we talked about today. You can raise your hand digitally, and feel free to put your video on microphone, and we'll take them live.
Okay, so how does it work? You can just write in the chat, I have a question, or raise your hands digitally on Zoom. You can do this and making that you want to ask a question. Any questions, guys, you'd like to ask? No?
We're good?
I think. Margaret, okay. Margaret, if you can tell us where you're from, where you're connecting from, and if it's okay for you to have your camera on. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Billy, and thank you, Moshe, and Yehuda, of course. Billy, I think it was a genius idea what you did with the PDF Zohar during the pandemic, and I just want to share, I still do that. I mean, that what our goal is to do it digitally so that we can reach more people in less time?
Great question. First, I want to say that in my humble opinion, that virus was destined to be a mass killer like the bubonic plague. And I believe the spreading of that Zohar defanged, neutralized that virus. Because Kabbalist Ravberg was talking for 30 years about airborne disease. It's in the Zohar. Virus, pox is coming, blah, blah, blah. And the year 2020 is listed in the Zohar as a major intensification of light in the year 2020. And boom, out comes COVID. And so I believe that whole process of sharing the Zohar absolutely changed realities. Okay. So yes, the plan is to do digital downloads of the PDF of the original Zohar, one targeted for Christians, one targeted for Muslims. And that's why we need to raise funds. We want to buy media. We want to buy TV spots. We need to get the Zohars created to produce those, like to do all the editorial work, to add all the Christian and Islamic aspects to the Zohar, to stop, us from going over the precipice of nuclear war right away. So that's like an emergency task force, like get the PDFs out there. Raise the money to start buying media time so we're not limited. We get a team together, start doing all the work, all the social media content. We want to target the Islamic world. We want to target the Christian world in different countries. And then as we are gathering names and doing these downloads and hopefully getting on the Sunday morning TV shows and podcasts, we have Roseanne Barr who's going to help, etc. We have other people who are getting involved. We have many powerful people in the world from the Islamic world and Christian world who are leaders and influencers. They want to get involved. There's great excitement over this. So first phase, get out the PDFs. Well, first phase is create the PDFs. We just got the Zohars in. It was a miracle. It was a miracle. For another day, we'll talk about it, how we got the first ever one. Just a miracle that quickly. So the first phase is adapt it for the different markets. 2, get it out there. Mass download of the PDFs, emulating what we did in COVID. They don't even have to print. We'll say if you want to print some, great, but get it out there. And then 3, as we build this, both internally with people like you and volunteers, and build it out there amongst the people out there, and we build up a database of names and people, now we'll start printing hard copies of the Zohar, big, small, etc., and get global distribution happening that way as well. Because the physical books in a specific location, the physical books in someone's hand just generates even more light. So everything we're doing is about sending candles, torchlights, candles. As long as we keep spreading light, we will keep reducing space and time. Right? We'll keep bringing the redemption closer. We'll see miracles happen. You'll see something will change on the news. You'll see pockets of little miracles. Things will be shifting to keep spreading the light. And the goal, nothing less than, as Rabbi Ashlag says, by reaching out to the Christians and Muslims. He says it to all the Gentile nations. That's the precondition. It's not going to happen any other way. We can deny it. We don't have to understand it. But the people who are close do understand it. The complete redemption of all humanity will happen when we reach a critical mass of Zohars in the hands of all nations, removing that space between us.
So a follow-up question to what you just said. So the digital are going to be followed up to the same people with a physical copy?
No, I'm saying we'll make it. No, we'll make offers to people if they want to get physical copies. I'm saying it's 2 forms of distribution.
Okay.
First, it's just get everybody sharing that PDF.
Yes.
Then we'll launch a full on printing of the Zohar, documentaries, TV shows, podcasts, everything, excuse me, everything built around Zohar. There's so much content there, science in Zohar, Christianity in Zohar. The Rav told me, you're not going to put billions of people in a classroom all around the world, in classrooms all around. No, get it out there through entertainment.
Social media.
Yes, social media, entertainment, everywhere. We need to raise money. So we can start building the social media. We can hire the writers to start building in the production crews the documentaries. We're going to go full steam on all fronts. That's why we need you.
All right, thank you.
And just as a quick reminder, whoever donates 10,000, we have a limited edition 3-volume set of a printed Zohar. They're all numbered, based directly on the original manuscripts, that are still, archived away. So keep that in mind as well. That's a limited edition, all numbers. All numbered with serial numbers. Okay, any more questions? As I choke here.
You want to get some water, please?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Too much cheese yesterday.
Okay. We have here Bethany. Bethany said that she wants to ask a question. So Bethany, you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera, please. Let us know where you're connecting from.
Hi, I'm from Los Angeles. And I just first wanted to just say a really quick story and thank you all for this. I was dealing with some migraines that my doctors couldn't figure out. And obviously I had prayed and, was worried about it. And I remembered what had been shared in one of these classes about the portion in Zohar from Pinchas. And so I found a YouTube recording and I just laid down and I listened to the YouTube recording of the reading of that portion, and the headache that had been for days lifted. So I just wanted to thank Billy for sharing about that, because it was amazing. My question has to do with basically like the splitting that's happening right now with what's going on between like Jews and Muslims and Christians, and like what we can do as followers of truth and light to help breed unity in whoever we connect with, obviously other than prayer. If you have anything, any advice specifically about helping to feed unity rather than division right now.
So it takes many different facets to win a war. The objective here is not to win battles. It's to win a war. Okay? Battles means it continues. You win one battle, you lose a battle, you win a battle, you win a war, it's over. We're warring against darkness. The darkness that hurts Christians, Muslims, and Jews. We all bleed the same color blood. Okay. There's 2 ways to fight. You can fight on the physical battlefields of the world and spill your blood and win a battle. That's called the 1% reality, the physical world. The 99% reality, which Yehuda Berg called the world of miracles, the 99% of reality, the paradise we spoke about before that was shattered into pieces. That reality is how you affect change on the physical level in terms of winning a war. You fight down here, you're only going to win battles. We've been fighting battles for 2,000 years. No matter how many protests, love-ins, sharing good feelings, we're not ending it. Okay. But you do need people. You need the soldiers because it's too late. The war started, right? So you need soldiers to shed their blood now. And, people are now trying to, reach out to people or start an organization. That's still fighting on the 1%. That's fine. Needs to be done. When there's a car accident, you got to send in the emergency responders to deal with the issue. But you're dealing with the symptoms. We need a special elite force of people who want to fight the war on the level of the 99% reality. The realm that affects the entire physical world at the DNA root cause level. So if we inject light into that 99% reality, draw it down into this world, you get miracles. So if you want to promote unity between people, it's the Zohar. That's all it is. Contribute to the Zohar project. Read the Zohar. Buy one Zohar and share it with somebody. It's Zohar, Zohar, Zohar. The word Zohar means radiance, light, emanation. It's the Zohar. Now, if you want to learn more about the Zohar, we have all the classes that will blow your mind. Oh my God, I get it. Now I see what the Zohar is. We don't have time to go into that now. We gave you an example last week of how the Zohar protected the Jews of Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria, who just chanted the Zohar 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they weren't touched by the Nazis. Even when the Nazis invaded North Africa, and they demanded the deportation of the Jews. The Muslims said, no, you're not touching them. There's no Muslims in Morocco. There's no Jews in Morocco. There's only Moroccans. And Rommel, the Nazi general, turned around and left. Get it through our heads. It's not normal that he did that. That's called the world of miracles, because the light diminished the ego. It diminished the time and space. We didn't have to go through a process of suffering. We had light, miracle. Now we want to do the same thing here. We need to stop the bloodshed in the Middle East. We need to stop the corruption going on in government, in medicine, in religion. It's everywhere. It's a cesspool. We want to fight on the level of cause, the level of the root, the level of the DNA, not fight on the level of it's already an effect. There's already a symptom. We got to repair the wound. We want to stop the wounds from happening ever again and heal the wounds miraculously as much as we can. Kabbalist Rav Ashlag wrote that letter in 1935, warning the rabbis of Eastern Europe spread the Zohar. They didn't do it. Morocco did. So there was pockets of miracles. All of North African Jews were protected. East European Jews were slaughtered. 6 million. 75 million non-Jews were slaughtered in World War II. Everybody's paid the price. The Zohar could have protected everybody. They didn't heed the call. Now, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Zohar and Rav Ashlag, the year was 2020. It's another letter written to humanity. In the Zohar, by the way, was yesterday's portion in the Torah. Yesterday's portion in the Torah Vayera. If you open up your Zohar, you'll find a paragraph that speaks about the 6th millennium, and there's a formula there, which I discussed in our previous lecture, this live event we had last week, how the year 2020, there's another black cloud hovering over the world. So we're here now to tell you, spread the Zohar. It's the only way. Instead of having miracles just in North Africa, we want to have miracles all over the globe. You have to do it. I have to do it. No one's doing it for us. There's no savior. There's no Messiah coming to save us. The Messiah comes when we lay the groundwork. Both Christianity and Judaism both say that Elijah will be here before the Messiah arrives. And Rabbi Ashlag revealed the great secret. The revelation of Elijah is the dissemination of the Zohar. It's a code for the Zohar. Rewind this and watch what I said about that, because I know we moved pretty quickly. Elijah's appearance in this world, heralding the redemption and the arrival of the Messiah, is the same thing as the revelation of the Zohar. In fact, that's what it is. This is why Jesus stood with Moses and Elijah. This is why Elijah the prophet visited Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai when he was in the cave for 13 years getting the Zohar. Elijah was revealing the Zohar to him. Moses was revealing the Zohar to him. Follow me carefully on this. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, author of the Zohar, is in a cave, and Moses and Elijah come to him and reveal the Zohar. Jesus is up there with Elijah and Moses. I think it's the Transfiguration. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an expert in Christianity. It's the same story. It's the Zohar that is the revelation of Elijah, which creates the redemption and brings forth the Messiah. So the only way to get the Zohar out there is you. Stop with the logical thinking. I got to protest. I got to write a letter. Yeah, we do, but not the elite warriors. If you want to be an elite warrior and fight in the level of cause. And let me tell you something. It's a tougher war to fight, the war against the ego and internally, than it is to fight on the battlefield. So, Bethany, I hope I answered your question. I know it's hard because there's like cobwebs and curtains in our consciousness and so much brainwashing and conditioning in this world. It's hard to grasp the simplicity that the Zohar, that just if we just focus on the Zohar, we are bringing tremendous, profound light to the world. I only learned it over 10-year period, and I still learn it through the experiences, when you experience the miracles. Like when my mother had cancer and she was against me, studying Kabbalah, and they gave her, we always see the famous, you got less than 6 months because it's inoperable. And I said, now will you take the Zohar? And she did. And then she called me, and my whole family was against it, against me, studying Kabbalah, blah, blah, blah. And then, and she was in her 80s, or late 70s at the time. But she had inoperable, kidney cancer. And I said, now you take the Zohar? And she took it. And I forget, a month later, when she went to her next checkup, the doctor, and my mother's now calling me crying on the phone. She's in Toronto. I'm here in LA. She's crying. She says, don't tell your sisters what I'm about to tell you. But the doctor said, it's a miracle. It's gone. The cancer was gone. We need miracles. That's what we need. So my mother had to do that transformation, letting go of her, her disinterest in the Zohar, her opposition to me being involved in Kabbalah. She had to let go and diminish her ego and say, I'll take it. Why go through pain? If we do our work and get the Zohars out there, then, we have an opportunity to bring the redemption through mercy. During the Holocaust, there was mercy and judgment. Judgment for the 6 million who died in the gas chambers and the death camps, 75 million who died on the battlefield and other casualties of war. And then mercy, the Jews of North Morocco and Muslims in North Morocco, they weren't touched. Muslims, Christians, Jews living in North Africa were all protected by the Zohar. We just say the Jews but everybody in North Africa was protected by the Zohar. So I hope I'm making it clear. Okay, we have time for one last question if there's any more questions.
We do have, but I'd like to read here Jane on the chat. She said the following, Billy. So by doing the work at the 99% level, we are doing an energy cleansing of humanity, not getting caught up in the story and using the Zohar as the tool to do it, correct?
Correct. The Zohar. Don't think, put it out there. Donate, or buy yourself and ship some out. Finally, I'll just say that, the famous verse that the Apostle Paul quotes in Acts 26:13, when he saw Jesus. Paul was a great opponent of Jesus. And when he saw on the road to Damascus this light shining, and he heard Jesus' voice speaking in Aramaic, the New Testament says that, he heard it in Aramaic. Paul used the word Zohar from Daniel 12:3 to explain that light. Zohar, Jesus speaking Aramaic. The Zohar is written in Aramaic, and that verse in Daniel. And the Zohar itself says, why is it called Zohar? It's from the verse in Daniel, the same verse the Apostle Paul quoted. Those who are wise will shine like the Zohar of the firmament. The Zohar says, who are the wise? The Kabbalists. But then it goes on to say, and those who turn others to righteousness, they will shine like the stars forever and ever. That's us. When we contribute to the Zohar, to the dissemination of the Zohar, when we hand the Zohar physically to somebody, that's the phrase, you are turning others to righteousness. You are securing for yourself connection to that verse in Daniel. You will shine like the stars forever and ever. You'll be among the mercy, the protected, the blessed for doing this sacred work.
We have
Okay.
one more question. Can we?
Is there one there?
She raised her hand.
Okay,
Sarah.
let's take one last question.
Okay, so Sarah Sanchez, your last question of the day. You may unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Billy. How are you? Thank you
Good.
for doing this.
Thank you for
I
coming.
just very quick. When I tell my friends and when I tell my family about this amazing project you're doing, they ask me, like, what is the difference between this Zohar and the Zohar that we already know?
Beautiful.
So,
Great question.
Yeah.
The difference is this is a specific, it's like, the Navy SEALs, the special elite forces in an army, or the Mossad, or any secret service agency, in any country. This is a special elite force with targeted strikes. We're going after Christians and Muslims as per the teachings of Rabbi Ashlag and what the Rav and Karen told me, Christians, Muslims, all those nations. So we thought the most powerful way to do it, to get to the seed of the seed, because Rabbi Ashlag studied from this Zohar, Rabbi Isaac Lurie studied from it. This Zohar was approved by the Pope. After 2,000 years of, persecution against the Jews, burning Jewish books, killing, Muslims in the Quran, even burning Protestant Bibles, this Zohar had the power, the miraculous power, to be printed and authorized by the Pope on the printing press that was just invented for the first time in history. So the consciousness of that Zohar, the power of that Zohar, is that it's the first breakthrough Zohar to reach the masses. There was no way before. So we're blending that power of the first ever printing press, the Pope's authorization to target, and fusing it with modern day technology, the internet. Wow. And then television to reach everybody. That is the power we're tapping into as a special force, targeted exercise at Christians, because someone has to do it. Right? So the Zohars we have now that are going out there, through the Kabbalah Center, miracles are coming in every day. Every day. Miracles happened, I don't know if you read about them, on the day of the massacre in Gaza. At the party, people who had the pocket Zohar, they were reading the Zohar as the terrorists were going by. They weren't touched, nor were the people around them. There wasn't just the one person holding the Zohar. The group that they were with, they were protected. So that's continuing. We're looking for people to bring it to all the nations, to really touch their heart when they see that the teachings of Jesus are in the Zohar, that some of the most important concepts of Islam are rooted in the Zohar. And the Rav always says it doesn't belong to the Jews, the same way the sun doesn't belong to the Jews or the Christians or the Hindus or the Buddhists or the Muslims or the atheists. The sun shines just on everybody. So the biggest corruption that this is a Jewish book. No, it's the people's book. That's a quote from one of the Rav's books from 40 years ago. It's the people's book. We got to bring it to the people. If it resonates, get on board. Okay, Moshe, please show everybody the contribution page. Please, everybody, I urge you. This is the letter. Warning: we need to get these books out there. We would deeply appreciate it, and we'll keep you posted on the next time we get together again and give you constant updates. And nothing less than the complete eradication of darkness. Thank you from my bottom of my heart for being here today.
So this is the page. You all have the link you have on the chat, the recording, the link will be below. So you can scroll down and select how much you want to, you can. As Billy said, the more it hurts, the better. And for $10,000 contributions or more, you will get your limited edition numbered Zohar. As simple as that. And thank you all for joining us from all over the world.